Imagine for a second that you are trapped in a wire snare.
Oh, wow. Okay.
No.
Starting right in the deep end.
Yeah, it's a intense visual. But imagine it. You're completely panicked, you're injured, and suddenly your natural prey just walks right up to you.
Right. So your immediate biological instinct in that moment is to lash out,
Exactly, to kill them. And their biological instinct is to run away.
obviously. Yeah.
But instead of running, this tiny creature walks up to the trap and uses its teeth to chew through the wire, saving your life.
Which completely inverts everything we are taught about surviving in a hostile environment, you know?
Right. Today, we're looking at a survival guide for a deep dive that argues our greatest weapon in the wild isn't like strength and it isn't aggression. It's actually vulnerability.
Yeah, it suggests that our normal defense mechanisms are the very things keeping us trapped.
And what makes this so fascinating to me is where the survival guide actually comes from. We have this stack of source material today, and we're diving into Charlie Mackesy's The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse.
Yes, which is such a unique piece of work.
It really is. I mean, if you just glance at these beautifully illustrated handwritten notes and ink sketches, you might assume it's just, a charming children's book.
It definitely adopts that visual vocabulary for sure.
Yeah.
But if we actually sit down and analyze the psychological depth of the conversations happening between these four archetypal characters, we are looking at a highly sophisticated manual.
A manual for, navigating human emotion.
Exactly. Navigating emotion and just the sheer unpredictability of life.
Which Mackesy refers to simply as the wild. And our mission today is to extract the core, timeless truths about navigating this wilderness. Because I know you, our listener, love gaining profound knowledge without having to wade through a massive, overwhelming info dump.
Right. No one wants a textbook.
No. And I love how he sets up the premise right on the opening pages. He admits he usually starts reading books in the middle.
Which is so relatable.
Yeah. He says he needs pictures because they're like islands in a sea of words, and then he just drops this massive disclaimer for the entire human experience.
I love this part.
He just writes, "The truth is everyone is winging it."
Yeah, that phrase, it instantly neutralizes the reader's anxiety. It's actually a concept in psychology known as dismantling pluralistic ignorance.
Pluralistic ignorance? Wait, what does that mean exactly?
So we all walk around privately feeling like we have no idea what we're doing. But because nobody else is admitting it, we incorrectly assume we are the only ones falling behind.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Right. So Mackesy just levels the playing field before the journey even begins.
He's like, nope, we're all lost together. So, to understand how this works, we have to look at the cast of characters real quick. We have the boy, who is lonely and full of questions.
Then there's Malay, who is greedy for cake, but surprisingly wise.
The fox, who is silent and wary, really hurt by life.
And finally, the horse, who is the biggest, gentlest creature of them all.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because early on, Mackesy sketches this moment that I think perfectly captures the friction of traversing the wild. The boy is looking down at his reflection in the water, and he says, "Isn't it odd? We can only see our outsides, but nearly everything happens on the inside."
Yeah, that is the fundamental cognitive barrier in human relationships right there.
How so?
Well, we navigate the world treating other people's polished exteriors as their full, objective reality. Meanwhile, we are intimately aware of our own chaotic, messy internal world.
Oh, right. We compare our complex behind-the-scenes footage to everyone else's highly edited final cut.
Precisely. And Mackesy gives us this brilliant visual for that exact phenomenon with the swans.
Yes, the swans. The boy and the horse are standing by a pond, watching these impossibly graceful swans gliding across the water, and the boy asks, how do they look so together and perfect?
And the horse replies, there's a lot of frantic paddling going on beneath.
Frantic paddling, I love that.
I often think about the biomechanics of that, actually. Because above the surface, fluid dynamics allows a swan to look like it's hovering effortlessly.
It's just totally smooth.
Right. But beneath the surface, it is a constant, highly kinetic expenditure of energy just to move an inch. Mackesy uses this to dismantle what the mole calls the greatest delusion.
Which is?
The idea that life should be perfect.
Which totally shifts how we view the people around us. I mean, when I see someone crushing a presentation or seamlessly managing a team, My brain defaults to, wow, they're a gliding swan and I am a thrashing mess.
We all do that.
But the reality is they are paddling just as frantically as I am, you know? Their water is just a little deeper today.
And believing you are the only one struggling, it creates a massive physiological toll.
Wait, physiological? Like in your body?
Absolutely, because it forces you to expend double the energy. You have to paddle to stay afloat, and you have to expend energy masking the fact that you are paddling at all.
Oh, wow. That sounds exhausting.
It is. It is a recipe for complete burnout.
Okay, but let's push on that a little bit. Because if we are all secretly paddling frantically in the wild, just trying to keep our heads above water, how do we keep from sinking? Mackesy says the answer requires vulnerability.
Right.
Which, you know, sounds great in a watercolor book.
Yeah.
But in real life, admitting you are drowning feels incredibly dangerous.
It feels dangerous because our amygdala, the fear center of our brain, it perceives social rejection as a literal threat to our survival.
So we're hardwired to hide it.
Exactly. But Mackesy introduces a paradox that challenges that biological wiring.
Through the horse, right. The boy asks him, what is the bravest thing you've ever said? And this massive, powerful creature just answers, help.
Yeah. And when we look at the mechanics of why that works, it redefines our cultural understanding of strength. We're conditioned to believe that needing help is a deficit.
Right, like a weakness.
But asking for help isn't a surrender. It is a refusal to give up.
Oh, I like that. A refusal to give up.
It is an active, strategic choice to acquire the resources you need to stay in the fight. The book notes that we are at our strongest when we dare to show our weakness, and that tears fall for a reason, and they are your strength, not weakness.
Okay, I hear you. But practically speaking, let's say I walk into a high-stakes corporate meeting tomorrow and say, hey, everyone, I'm overwhelmed, help me. The cynical view is that I just painted a giant target on my back.
Well, sure, it feels that way. But he demonstrates how vulnerability acts as a psychological disruptor.
How does that work?
When you admit a weakness or ask for help, you actually signal high self-awareness and self-regulation. People subconsciously recognize that someone who knows exactly where their limits are is actually more trustworthy than someone who pretends they have no limits.
Huh. That is really counterintuitive, but it makes a lot of sense. And we see that disruptor effect play out with the fox, actually.
Yes, the fox is such a great example.
He's this deeply traumatized, silent character. He finally admits to the group that he feels he has nothing interesting to say, like he's carrying all this shame. And the horse just casually replies, being honest is always interesting.
Which completely bypasses the fox's defense mechanisms.
Yeah.
You don't have to be performative. Authenticity requires far less cognitive load than putting on a facade.
Right.
And it actually fosters deeper neurological connection with others.
Which brings us back to that intense hook we started with, the literal life or death example of this. The fox, the natural predator, gets caught in a wire snare.
Right.
And the mole approaches him, and the fox snarls, if I wasn't caught in the snare, I'd kill you.
Because the fox's fight-or-flight system is completely hijacked. He's in agonizing pain, he's trapped, and he projects that threat onto the only creature trying to help him.
But the mole doesn't flinch. He just uses his tiny teeth to chew through the wire anyway. The prey saves the predator. How does a moment of extreme, unexpected kindness like that actually rewrite the dynamic?
It creates a massive pattern interrupt. The fox's brain is predicting a specific sequence of events, right? I am vulnerable, therefore I will be attacked, therefore I must display aggression.
Okay, yeah.
But when the mole responds with radical altruism instead of fear, it completely breaks the fox's predictive model. It forces the fox's nervous system to downregulate. The vulnerability of the mole getting close to those snapping jaws actually disarms the terror of the fox.
Wow. So vulnerability and kindness literally disarm fear. But showing grace to a snarling fox or, asking a friend for help is one thing. The source material argues there's an even harder recipient of our kindness.
Right, which is ourselves.
Ourselves, exactly. And since you, our listener, are a learner, you love acquiring new concepts. But the mole actually wonders if there is a school of unlearning.
Yes, a school of unlearning. It's such a brilliant idea.
But why would we want to unlearn? I mean, shouldn't we be gathering more data?
Well, we spend our whole lives downloading these defensive survival scripts. Eventually, those background applications take up so much processing power that our main operating system just crashes. We have to unlearn our fears and our habit of comparison.
Ah, the comparison trap.
Exactly. Evolution basically programmed us with a negativity bias. In a tribal environment of 150 people. Comparing your status to others kept you safe and fed.
Right, you had to know where you stood.
But in a hyper-connected modern world, that same biological script tells you that you are constantly failing.
Because you're comparing your behind the scenes to the highlight reels of 8 billion other people.
Exactly. And the mole states flatly that comparing yourself to others is the biggest waste of time. He notes that old moles wish they had listened less to their fears and more to their dreams.
That is so profound. They spent their whole lives running defensive background programs, protecting themselves from the wild, and they forgot to actually live in it.
So true. And the core insight here is a quote from the text, "Often the hardest person to forgive is yourself."
Man, that hits home.
Unlearning means recognizing that you are allowed to be of a messy, in-progress human being. Being kind to yourself is one of the greatest kindnesses, and it doesn't have to wait.
Right, it can start right now. I think we often treat self-compassion as a reward we only get after we achieve our goals.
But biologically, self-criticism releases stress hormones that impair our ability to learn and adapt. Self-compassion activates the mammalian caregiving system, releasing oxytocin and endorphins, which actually increases our resilience.
That completely changes how you process data. There's this brilliant paradigm shift from the boy that illustrates this perfectly. They're doing the classic philosophical is your glass half empty or half full routine.
Right, we've all heard that one.
But the boy just bypasses the metric entirely and says, I think I'm grateful to have a glass.
Yes, that is the essence of cognitive diffusion. It's moving away from measuring and judging your life and moving toward a radical gratitude for the vessel itself.
It's just an unlearning of expectations. But here's where it gets really interesting. Because this mindset of self-compassion and unlearning, it isn't just for quiet days. The visual narrative in the book shifts dramatically.
It does, yes.
The gentle landscapes get replaced by dark clouds and fierce, heavy winds. When the big things feel totally out of control, what is the advice? It's focus on what you love right under your nose.
He is visually representing an acute crisis there, an anxiety attack, or just a moment of total overwhelm. And in a world of information overload, which we all deal with, the book offers a masterclass in grounding oneself.
Right. The mole walks the boy through a mindfulness exercise. Find a quiet spot, shut your eyes, breathe, and focus. And what does the mole focus on?
Cake.
Cake. Throughout all these deep existential discussions, there is this recurring humorous motif of cake. If at first you don't succeed, have some cake.
It's so great.
The boy asks if it's the moon on the paper, and the mole says it's a teacup stain, and where there's tea, there's cake.
On the surface, it provides necessary levity. But if we dig into the behavioral science of why Mackesy uses cake, it is incredibly sophisticated.
Wait, really? How so?
Well, when you are in the middle of a massive storm, a panic attack, a sudden loss, your prefrontal cortex, the logical part of your brain, it essentially goes offline.
So logic just goes out the window.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
cannot reason your way out of the storm. You have to use sensory input to bypass the cognitive overwhelm and speak directly to your nervous system.
Oh, like grounding techniques.
Yes. In dialectical behavior therapy, this is taught as distress tolerance and sensory grounding. A piece of cake is a highly engaging sensory experience. The taste and smell actually bypass the thalamus and go straight to the brain's emotional centers.
It's a physical circuit breaker for panic.
Exactly. The cake represents finding joy in the small, tangible present when the macro future is too terrifying to process.
That completely changes how I view that advice. It's tactical nervous system regulation. As Mackesy writes, sometimes just getting up and carrying on is brave and magnificent.
You don't have to conquer the crisis today. You just have to endure it until your nervous system regulates.
And the reminder is simply, this storm will pass. But when the storm finally breaks, where does it leave us?
It leaves us with the ultimate realization of what this journey is all about.
So, what does this all mean? Overcoming the wild, asking for help, surviving the storm, it all leads to the core human desire, true belonging. We see the boy express this deep insecurity. He says, sometimes I worry you'll all realize I'm ordinary.
That is the textbook definition of imposter syndrome right there. The fear that if people see past your swan illusion, they'll abandon you.
And the mole replies with the thesis of the entire book. He says, love doesn't need you to be extraordinary.
It completely dismantles the transactional view of human connection. The idea that we have to earn our place in the world through perfection is a lie.
And this is illustrated beautifully when the horse reveals his secret. He actually has wings. He can fly.
But he stopped because it made the other horses jealous. It's a perfect metaphor for the tall poppy syndrome. where we shrink ourselves to secure a fragile place in the herd. We fear our brilliance will isolate us.
The group's response isn't awe at his magic. It's profound acceptance. They say, "We love you whether you can fly or not."
It is the ultimate antidote to imposter syndrome.
It's the realization of, so you know all about me, and you still love me, and the answer is, we love you all the more.
When the horse asks the group, "What's your reason to keep going?" the fox says, "You three." The mole says, "Cake." And the boy says, "Getting home."
And the mole observes that everyone is just trying to get home. But in this context, home isn't a physical place, is it?
No, home is a psychological state. It's the safety of being loved just as you are.
Wow. So, to summarize this deep dive directly for you, the listener, the shortcut to being well-informed about a good life isn't about hoarding complex data. It's about remembering that doing nothing with friends is never doing nothing.
Right.
That a hug lasts longer than cake, that our reaction to things is our greatest freedom, and that, yes, life is difficult, but you are loved.
Which leaves us with one last thread to pull on. The source material notes we don't know about tomorrow. All we need to know is that we love each other.
If the destination we are all desperately seeking is home, meaning unconditional acceptance, and we truly have no idea what tomorrow brings, how would it change the way you interact with the very next stranger you see today? Because knowing what we know now, they are wandering through the exact same wild as you, frantically paddling, just looking for their way home.